All right, we're recording.
Right.
Welcome, everybody, to the third installment of Mr. Messner's Math Speaker Series. I have a new guest, a friend that goes all the way back to middle school soccer days, goes
Right.
all the way back to Smash Brothers on the N64.
You know it.
We've kept in touch throughout. We're still great friends. Matt Auster. Matt Auster, say hello to everybody. Where are you video chatting from?
I'm video chatting from Jersey City, New Jersey, which is right over the Hudson River from New York City.
Unbelievable. Can we see your view, Matt? Like, show everybody what a proper Jersey City, like, show everybody how close you are to Manhattan.
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
I think that would be cool for people to see.
See, can you see everything there?
Oh, yeah. So on the left side, that's the Freedom Tower.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's
There
right.
you
We
go.
see that at night. It lights up.
I bet you it's cool to see. Yeah. How's everything going in Jersey City in terms of the health concerns out there? Can you give us perspectives on that for kids to hear about?
Yeah, so Jersey City, it's the second largest city in the state of New Jersey, actually. But they were pretty ahead of the curve in terms of sort of putting restrictions in place. So they put a curfew in weeks ago before federal government put in stuff. Everyone started social distancing early, and so I think that's helped, considering the size of the city and how bad New York City has been hit. They've done a pretty good job, and I think that's helped mitigate some cases. When I go out and walk my dog, there's no one on the streets, and before it was pretty bustling area downtown.
Now, did they close the path? Like, can you take the path from Jersey City into New York City, or is it still open? Or
You can take the path. I think they're still running a normal schedule, which is good, because I know in New York they limited some of the buses and subways, and that's made the ones that are running more crowded. So it sort of doesn't help the situation. So no, you can still, essential personnel, healthcare folks, they're still going in and out, which is good.
yeah. Well, thanks for giving us some light on those things. But let's get to the heart of the matter, which is like we're going to talk about what you do, and then we'll talk about a little bit about math and what you do. So let's start off with, where do you work and what do you do? Like, who do you work for and what do you do?
So I work for a private equity firm. It's called Runtide Capital, and in a few sentences, basically, what we invest private money into private companies. So everyone knows about the stock markets. This isn't these types of companies. We deal with smaller companies that have they're called tech-enabled businesses. So a lot of technology is used. Think of companies similar to like Uber, Chewy.com, but we invest when those companies are smaller. So their revenue can be anywhere from 10 million up to about 80 million, making profits of anywhere from $1 million of profit up to 5-6 million. And so we invest into that, and we help work with the management teams, help get their business to the next level. A lot of them are founder-led businesses, folks who started that, maybe right out of college, or, a couple years out of college, or even older, and have gotten the company to a point, but are unable to get it to the next level because they just don't know how. They need help, just in terms of how to think about growing a business as it gets larger, and then also importantly capital, and using that capital in an efficient manner, in a way to help grow their business.
Now, what stage of all of that are you a part of? Are you doing everything? Are you doing management consultants? Are you doing acquisition, or are you looking into which businesses do you want to investigate more into? You want to throw some capital at? Like, what are you, Matt Auster, mostly involved with within all of that your company does?
Yeah, so we're a smaller firm, and so I am sort of a utility infielder, if you will. I do a lot. So I help review the businesses. So we do diligence, reviewing them, looking at what are highlights of the business, what are the risks, understanding the businesses, and then putting together materials to present to our investment committee to make a decision. Do we want to invest in this business? Is it one worth putting capital into, with the risks we've identified, with the investment highlights that we've identified, and can we get a good return on the capital for our investors? And so putting analysis of that, a lot of financial modeling, and we can talk about that in a bit, or spreadsheeting and figuring out what the returns on our money will be. And then just as another part of it, because we're a smaller office, I do a lot of the internal accounting and financial work for just our firm itself. So managing our own financials and looking at our own cash flow statements and profit and losses and those sorts of things.
And so I guess my next question is like, what does math look like with all of that? You talked about spreadsheeting. A lot of spreadsheets people don't know is just like adding and subtracting. What kind of analysis goes into things? What kind of math goes into your analysis is the question, is a better question.
Yeah, so we use a lot of basic math, so addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then a lot of basic algebra solving, for one variable, because a lot of what we do is negotiating how much is a business worth when we invest, which allows us to get an ownership. And so we do a lot of math saying, well, if I invest $5 million and your company's worth 10, then after I put in my money, the company should be worth 15, so my 5 is worth a third. And we do a lot of math like that, a lot of time value of money, figuring out present value, what would it be in the future based on sort of growth rates. A lot of
my algebra students are dealing with time value of money right now, the exponential growth of that's good for them. It's good for them to hear that we use this stuff.
Oh yeah, and then when we invest with the companies, we oftentimes look to put debt on the company. So then we do a lot of sometimes there's bond math type of work and calculating interest rates and sort of what's your sort of quarterly or annual interest payments. So again, using some of that basic algebra.
So very much financial math.
Yes.
And some exponential growth models in there, but a lot of just kind of basic algebra. And then you talked about you presented the data to your investment group.
Yep.
So you have to probably make the data and your analysis easier to understand. You probably put charts behind it, explain that process. And do you just go off of your spreadsheets, or what do you do?
No, yeah, absolutely. So, we'll take a lot of raw data. So there's a lot of, working in Excel and sort of making data tables. And then, sometimes we'll put our own growth rate. So we do CAGRs, compounded annual growth rate. That's a formula I use a lot. And, once we have all the data, we look at it, we analyze it, and then we sort of summarize it either in simplified charts or tables or graphically, so that it can fit on a one-page PowerPoint and be one of a 50-page presentation that someone can go through and look at.
Now, how'd you learn all this stuff? Talk me through like where you went to college, what did you study in college, and what were the jobs that you held before then, and how did you learn all about this compounded annual growth rates, this bond calculation analysis, the time value money equations? Like when did you learn this? Take me through college and then to now.
Yeah, so in college, I didn't take a ton
Where'd you go to
of
school?
I went to Colgate University.
What was your major?
I was a philosophy major.
Philosophy?
Yeah.
But you're in business right now.
That's right.
Okay, this is interesting. We can talk more about this, but continue.
Yeah. Well, you had to pick your major sophomore year. Didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time. But, I liked the basic types of math. And actually, one of the classes I took, math classes, my sophomore year was statistics. And I love statistics. One of the few A's I got. It was a good class.
Look at you now.
And actually, it was going into that summer. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I said, well, maybe it'd be interesting to work with my dad. And my dad, he was in finance, he was in private equity at the time, and he said, well, if that's what you want to do, you need to start getting internships that sort of allow you to go onto a path that can get you into a financial entry level financial job out of college. And so I worked for just a company that sold financial data to banks and other institutions, and that just sort of was my first toe into the corporate world. But after that, going between my junior and senior year, I applied for an internship at Citigroup in their investment banking department, and that's where I was able to get a lot of initial experience in finance. And then what I did was, after that year, after that internship between junior and senior year, I said, I need to start to learn accounting and financial math. And so I actually took accounting my senior year at Colgate. So that would help me get a familiarity with that type of math and what there needs to be learned there and some of the basics. And then Citigroup, actually, when I started my full-time job, they gave me an offer after my internship, and I went and joined them my senior year, after my senior year of college. They actually had sort of a mini boot camp for 2 months before you started your job. So we spent 2 weeks doing accounting. We spent 2 weeks doing bond math. We spent 2 weeks doing financial modeling. And then another, in between all of those 2 weeks, half the day was Excel, and just learning how to use Excel, different formulas, different commands, different shortcuts so that you could be proficient, which really will save you a lot of time compared to someone who's hunting and pecking. And some of our older colleagues at our firm, it's very painful to watch them use Excel. So
It's painful to watch young kids try to use Excel as well these days. It's something, yeah, we need to work on in terms of.
It's a powerful tool, and if you learn it, it will carry you through life, I feel. It really will save you a lot of time, both personally and professionally.
That's a good
And
point.
so, yeah.
Citigroup?
Yeah, so after Citigroup, I was there for about 3.5 years, and I then decided I didn't want to be at a large institutional bank, and so I moved to a boutique investment bank called Karl Marx. Great communist name for a capitalist firm. Yeah, right. But it was a family-owned business, over 100 years old, and it was. I really liked the smaller sort of team and smaller corporation. I think the total number of employees was 70, compared to Citigroup, which has thousands, tens, thousands worldwide. And I was with them for about 3.5 years, and I did a lot more dynamic work in terms of M&A, capital raising, M&As, mergers and acquisitions, compared to just sort of structuring bank loans, which was what I was doing at Citigroup. And then after about 3.5 years there, my father, who had been doing some investing with some other investors, had said, it'd be great if you could join me now. You've had 7+ years of experience yourself. I think it would make sense for us to come together. And so we did, and we've been working together ever since. And him and a couple other partners, they formed Runtide 3.5 years ago now, or 4 years ago. And we've been doing that ever since.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you took just a couple of applicable courses in college, and been pretty much learning everything that you've needed to use in the professional world. We've heard this a couple times in Messner's math speaker series. Is a lot of learning once we get in the job, and you ended up in finance, even though you were a philosophy major. So a lot of students are already picking majors right now and selecting colleges. And we've heard from 2 people right now. It's like, keep your options open, and don't just decide what you want to be when you're a senior.
That's
So
right.
that's exactly what happened with you, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think that's exactly right. And I think it's important to be open and to try a lot of things, especially in college, because that's a place where you can experiment. I think when you're in college, you feel that you're so old and that you got to make decisions that'll go the rest of your life. And as someone who's now approaching 40, that couldn't be further from the truth. And that you can make decisions at 22, 25, 30, and you still are going to have a long life ahead of you. And so I would encourage your students as they go on to college to really explore, try things that they may not otherwise try. Because there's at one point I really was into weather, and I looked at maybe majoring in meteorology at one point, and so you never know where life is going to take you.
Now, go back to when you were a high school student, and do you remember the math classes you took in high school?
I do.
What was your senior year math class?
AB calculus.
So you ended up where my students are currently. Okay. Now, first question. Do you use any calculus in your job? In any of your jobs?
No.
So as a businessman, you haven't used calculus at all?
No.
No. Now, part of the goal for me as a teacher is to tell students to study hard for their AP test and to, if they get credit for it, use the credits. Do you remember how you did on the AP exam, and did you use the credits? And did you retake Calculus 1 in college, or just tell me about your experience in math overall in high school? Let's just start with there. Like, what did you think about with math in high school?
Yeah, so with math, because I did like the lower levels of math when I was much younger. So my freshman year, I took geometry, and then I forget what I took sophomore year, because junior year I took trigonometry.
So probably like an algebra 2.
Probably algebra 2. Yep, that's right. Algebra 2. Yep, thank you. And then AB calculus. And I did well in geometry. I think I did okay in algebra 2. Trigonometry I did fine. And then AB calc I did not do very well. I tried. I just conceptually at the time I just couldn't quite get it. So I did take the AP test. I did not do that great. I think I got a 2. So I didn't use the credits. But part of the reason I took it, I think, was to push myself to see how far I could go. And if there was a job that ultimately that used calculus that I wanted to use, it's always good to have that option. And then, you can always retake it in college and the like.
But it wasn't the end of the world if you didn't do. You ended up in a good spot, and you didn't do great on the AP calculus.
And I took college level math. Like I said, I took statistics, I took accounting. I actually got A's in both of those classes in college. And so another class actually in philosophy, I took logic, and logic is very similar to math. It's just using symbols for solving problems compared to numbers, right? And that was another class I did well in. And I think having those foundational classes while seeing where you can get yourself with math, I think is good, because some type of math is used in any type of job.
Now, so did you feel dejected at all after the bad score, or were you just like, whatever?
I think I probably, during the year, I was a little dejected because I was sort of a C+ student in AB Calc at the time, and I would try, I'd meet with my teacher after hours, and it just wasn't getting there. But by the time I took the test, I knew, if I got a 3, I would have been very happy, and a 4 would have been ecstatic. But I knew I was going on to college, and there was going to be a fresh start and a whole new world to explore.
I think this is great for kids to hear. It's like, you don't have to be a great calculus student to end up being successful in something that uses a lot of math. Financial analysis is it's simple math heavy, but it is math heavy, and you have to understand what's going on. So my sister said the same thing, which is like, she didn't think she wanted to do anything with math. She was sick of math. And then she's now doing a lot of stuff with math. It's like, so just don't think that calculus is the be all end all. If you can do it well, then you're set up.
Right.
Thank you. That's good stuff. All right. Well, we're going to finish off with just a couple quick questions. Just one question, simple question. Mm-hmm. If you could go back to your high school years and give yourself like one piece of advice that you think would have helped yourself in that situation, or it could help one of my students right now. These are seniors mostly who are taking the AP Calculus exam in a couple weeks. Like, I'm putting you on the spot, but like, do you have words of wisdom that you would be willing to share?
I think don't get discouraged. Certainly put in the work, put in the effort, because at the end of the day, that matters more than the result at this stage in life. And that once you've given it that chance and that old college try, they say you'll find that as you get older, you'll start to come into yourself more and understand where your strengths are in life, and that'll guide you. And so I think now is a time to really be about the process of learning and learning the basics and the foundation, most of which I'm sure your students have. But I think having that knowledge is really powerful, because there are a lot of people out there who don't know how to do basic math in their head. And I think having that and knowing that is important, even as simple a task as going to the grocery store.
So I love this. I think to summarize, it's like, don't be discouraged. Just keep trying. Learn the basics. We've heard this from another speaker. And try a lot of things, because who knows? Life might take you in different places, and you might realize that you want to do something, but you end up doing something else. I think, is that a good summary of things?
Yeah, that's right. Totally.
Well, do you have any questions for me? Do you have any questions about education? You've been out of education for a while now. I'd like to try to answer any questions you have. Do you have anything for me?
Yeah. How much has technology changed the classroom since we were in school?
That's a great question. I would say, I'll talk about my personal side of things. If you ever missed class back when we were in high school, because we had a soccer game that we had to go to and we left early from school from, and you missed class, like, what did you have to do? You had to go to your teacher. You had to like ask them what you missed. You had to ask your friend, like, what did we learn? That was the only way you can kind of pick up on what was going on. Well, now, like, we do that a lot. We have so many students and so many extracurricular activities at our school that kids are gone all the time. And I actually like efficiency, and I hate repeating myself. So if like I taught 95% of the students something that took me like 45 minutes to get through conceptually so they understood it, I don't want to teach somebody like a 10-minute overview just like that. So I record all my videos, and it's a lot easier to record videos of lessons, post those videos on YouTube. I record myself doing all the homeworks. So I don't like repeating myself to different students, like, hey, how did you do number 25? And then like 2 minutes later, another kid say, hey, how do you do number 25? Like, I can't stand that. It's like, that's a waste of my time. So I will record me doing all the homework problems. That way, if kids really have a question, like I'm happy to answer. It's because it's not going to be just a simple homework problem, and it's not going to be a lesson. So the content is more accessible these days because you can record videos, you can post things to YouTube. Kids are watching things on their phone. They're, we're doing online learning right now, and all these assignments are done digitally. You're downloading them, you're taking pictures of them, you're uploading them. I think that's the main difference is you can learn at a different rate. You can, some of my kids just like, I can tell, I make sure their eyes look like they're paying attention, but they are like zoned out in their brains. But it doesn't matter because they can just go watch the videos at home, and they can do the homework at their own time. And so I think it's just the learning is more accessible in different ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What else? What else you got? You got anything else?
Do you feel that what is taught has changed?
So I think what is taught needs to change more. I think like I thought it was funny when you were going through your math years, you forgot one specific math.
What's
And
that?
that's one of the maths that I teach. I have one section of Algebra 2. I think this course is the worst course known to man. It is completely idiotic. I mean, we do introduce some things that are important. But I think that course and trigonometry could be combined. I think we need to have more data analysis courses and like teaching kids how to use Excel and maybe not necessarily like a financial math course, but more just like data analysis. Like I was thinking of potentially one year, like in some year, teaching like a sports analytics course, where like it's easy data, but you just need to package it together and be able to present it. And you see so many cool graphs and charts about how the NBA has changed over the last 10 years. It used to be everybody was looking at like 2-point shots, like around the key, but now
Yep.
it's just 3-pointers and close to the basket. And that's data analysis. And I kind of think kids need to get more involved into looking at numbers and kind of appreciating them and not just thinking that it has to be this convoluted, complex algebra that's dumb. So I think there needs to be a lot of change in the future. But from when we were in high school till now, pretty much the courses are still the same.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's times are changing, but I think education always lags in the times. Yeah. What else?
How are the students these days? Like I realized the other day I was thinking about it, how our 20-year high school reunion is coming up. Not that I'm dating you, and how much has changed. That's a whole generation of students.
Yeah, I think phones are a huge distraction for kids, but I think they're like me in that they want things to be efficient. They want it to be clear. They want it to be efficient. It's like, don't waste my time because there's a lot of other things I could be doing because I have this huge, powerful device that I could be talking to my other friends. I could be learning potentially other things. So I think they just want things to be very clear, very efficient, and they don't want their time wasted because they move so quickly and they say they can multitask, but they can't. They're still the same as what we were. It's like if you got your computer open and you're trying to do your homework, you're just looking at who's AOL instant messaging you.
Yeah.
They're looking through their Instagram stories, or their snap streaks. So they're pretty much the same as how we were, but maybe they really want things to be done efficiently,
Well, at the rate we're going with technology, remember when we were younger, teachers would say, "Oh, you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket."
Right. We still try to use that. We use that excuse sometimes in math classes, and it's like, no, actually, yeah.
Well, in our job, you don't necessarily. That's why the basics are important. If you're in the middle of a negotiation with someone on the phone, you can't say, "Oh, no, I think we should be valued at X, not Y," because X. And if you have that math quick in your head and can do simple algebra quickly and division quickly, it really can give you a leg up because the other side then's trying to sit there and figure it out and they can't be thinking of a rebuttal.
Yeah, the basics. I love how you talked about like just make sure you know the basic, the whys. We heard that from Afshin. I talked to Piper yesterday, and he's actually knowing like the concepts behind why things in calculus are used in engineering was very helpful. Well, I really enjoyed our time together, Maddie. This is very, very valuable. I think even if a couple students get something out of this, it was worth the time. So thank you very, very much for your time. Everybody, Matt Auster.
Thanks, Robbie. No, it's a pleasure. And if anyone ever has questions about the world of finance or private equity or investment banking, I'm happy to chat with them.
I will send them your way. Thanks, Maddie.
Yep, of course.